What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
All things continually lead back to serpents, dragons, fairies, Nephilim, and fallen angels.
In the distance looms a mystical mountain.
As Mike Heiser used to say, if it's in the Bible and it's weird, it's probably important.
At its peak, a great fire burns, concealing the Prometheus lens.
This development of this knowledge that's being talked about within the mystery schools.
An ancient artifact said to reveal the hidden truth within a deliberately darkened world.
There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
The Smithsonian, they caught wind of a giant skeleton. They would send their agents out to get it.
But it takes courage to move forward, to move out of the shadows, out of the unreality that we think of as reality.
We are all on the hero's journey.
Mankind has been in contact with and influenced by extraterrestrials.
Leave the Sitchin mound of bull feathers out of it.
You know, look at it from a different perspective.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Justin. Here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. If it's your first time to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Down below, we'll have our socials coming down. Be sure to check us out on our various platforms. I'd greatly appreciate it. But today, we're just going to have a conversation with another podcaster. He was nice enough to have me on his show. He's got an amazing show. If you're into the kind of stuff that I'm into, you're definitely going to be into their show. Be sure and check those guys out. But my recent trip to Serpent Mound, I knew that this gentleman lived close because we had conversations about it. But once again, I'm reminded on how small the world is. I met a mutual friend of his, and so we was like, yeah, we got to get together and have that conversation. But I'd like to welcome to the show Mikey Liesner from the Strange Road. Mikey, thank you, bud.
Justin, what's happening, man? So good to be here. You crushed it on our show. We need to get you back on. You were an amazing guest talking about Esau and all these amazing stories from the Bible. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, man.
And like I was saying, guys, the Strange Road, check them out. Top-notch production, top-notch shows and discussions. But yeah, man, like I said, it was just a small world scenario here. I went up to Serpent Mound and had a local point me in the direction of this rock shop. And they're like, hey, if you're into giants and all this kind of stuff, then you need to go check out this guy Thomas at Alternate Universe and Rock Shop. And went down there, man, and Tom was awesome. But then I found out after I get back home that you're a good friend of his and you've had him on the show, and that's just crazy.
Yeah, it's really is a wild. We send a lot of podcasters and people that are into this stuff. If you're going to Serpent Mound, the one thing we tell them is go to Locust Grove, right across the street from the Dollar General. You cannot miss it. There's the House of Fake Ops Rock Shop. It's Tom and Terry's Alternate Universe is kind of the whole apparatus of the umbrella of all the different events they do, which is the Serpent Mound Star Knowledge Group. There's a Native American elder that kind of, with Tom and Terry, started bringing elders from all over the world, from Australia, the Dogon, people from South America to, join in ceremony at Serpent Mound on either the equinoxes or solstices. So they've been doing these events for many, many years. The Rock Shop is just kind of a like the nexus of the whole alternate universe that Tom and Terry have created. They're amazing people. During the pandemic, we had met them through basically just going to their events and kind of meeting them synchronistically through going to Serpent Mountain for our own reasons, our own spiritual purposes of learning, and eventually started going to their events. And we took a little strange road trip before the podcast even started. I was looking for inspiration for the crew. So we had rented a cabin. I think it was 2018 or 19. And we ended up going to the rock shop and talking to Tom for like 2 hours. And he told us all of these kind of secret hidden places around Serpent Mountain that he's, you got to go check out the water serpent is a big one. He'll talk to you about the water serpent. There's definitely evidence of this area below the cliffs. Serpent Mountain sits up on top of this plateau, and there's these cliffs below, and then the Brush Creek runs kind of along that cliff embankment. And these rocks have fallen off the face of that cliff and fallen kind of on the banks of the water, and it looks like a giant dragon or serpent head, this rock. And it's been there for a long time. There's definitely evidence of ceremonial rituals, basically like baptism type rituals. If you're a Christian, I guess you could relate it to that. Cleansing ceremonies. And so, Tom is just a hub, one of the many researchers and people that have kind of found their way to Serpent Mound. Tom lived in Michigan and Northern Ohio, worked for GM, and became obsessed with trilobites and fossils, and eventually made his way down to Adams County, where the largest trilobite fossils in the world are. So that's how he kind of came down and met Terry, and they purchased their house, I don't know, over 20 years ago, where the rock shop is now. But they're just great people. They've supported us. But around the pandemic, I realized that they had lost their live event. They couldn't do their spring equinox ceremony and their summer solstice. So we had lost all of our work. And so I'm a producer and director. I do video production. I'm also a podcast host of The Strange Road. But for years, I've been in production, live events, concerts, festivals. And so we lost all of our work in 2020. And so we were looking for something to do. Obviously, we started the podcast then because we finally had free time from all these gigs and hustling around. And so I called Terry, and I cold called her, and she was kind of taken off guard. It was like, who the hell is this guy from Columbus that's trying to pitch me to do a virtual event and do live streaming? And I said, hey, we need an opportunity to show what we can do with this kind of live stream event concept that we've been working on and developing. And, we would love to help you turn your live event into a virtual event, at least until everything gets turned back on. So she was very skeptical. And I found out later that a lot of the group had found out about me and were very protective of that, of her and Tom, and like making sure that I wasn't some shady dude that, to come down and take advantage of everybody and all that. And, I think once we got there and they saw the professionalism of the crew and kind of how we operate, they were, we just hit it off. And from then on, we've done a few events with them, and helped them do some streaming and shooting and stuff like that. So, just incredibly supportive to what we're doing, and have at every opportunity have given us advice and help through this whole process. And, Tom's been a guest. We featured him on the most popular video that we have on our YouTube channel, which is the Serpent Mound Impact Crater Tour with Thomas Johnson. And that's a tour he's been given over 20 years about the geology of the Serpent Mound Impact Crater. Tom was one of the integral people when the geologists from, I believe it was NASA, showed up to look for proof that this was an impact crater, because they thought it was basically an explosion, what they would call, above ground. Actually, like if you ever heard of Tunguska in Russia, where a comet or a meteor came down and exploded before it hit the ground and just flattened everything. So I think originally they thought it was was basically an explosion zone that the comet or it never actually hit the ground. So they were looking for this proof of this specific rock structure. And so they showed up to the rock shop and asked Tom, hey, have you seen any? I think it's called breccia. And he said, yeah, come with me. I'll show you exactly where it's at. Tom knew exactly where it was, brought these scientists out there. That was the smoking gun. That was the proof. Also, these micro diamond crystals. We feature it on our video. I'm having a tough time remembering some of the geological terms, but it's all featured in the video if you guys want to learn more about it.
One was like a conical something. What do you call it? A conical impact? He had this rock. It looked kind of like a pyramid cone.
Yes. Yeah, he showed you that. Nice. Super cool, man. Yes, those are basically showing you like the vibration of the energy and how it rippled through the rock and comes back, and how the energy shifts back from that explosion. And so just an all around amazing guy. And Terry is the grandmother, if you will, of a lot of these people that have this community. You know, you consider kind of an elder. She holds everything together. She moves everything forward. If you want to meet somebody, if you want to connect with somebody that Terry is a part of her community, you go to her and she says, oh, come on over. Yep. Stop everything she's doing and she'll connect you with Daryl Nichols and Bill Homan. Bill Homan is the keeper of the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. If you ever want to have him on, he's a great guest, super knowledgeable. And so a lot of these folks, Terry's helped us get in contact with over the years. So, she's just an absolute magnet for, all of these things that we're interested in.
Yeah, when I got there, see, I was kind of just going on a cold call. I'd met a woman at the mound. She's like, yeah, go check this rock shop out. And there's this guy named Tom that knows a lot about giants and the area and stuff. Yeah. So I went there and was kind of moseying around looking at the stuff. And I was like, hey, are you Tom? He's like, yeah. And I said, yes, a local at Serpent Mound told me to come check you out. And I was like, I got a YouTube channel. And I wished I would have known that you guys had worked with them, because I definitely mentioned you, but I mentioned some of the people that I'd worked with, and I mentioned Fritz, and he said, oh yeah, I know Fritz. And I said, yeah, I said, I've had Fritz on the show. We emailed back and forth a lot. And he was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, would you mind doing an interview with me? I said, because I'm actually doing like a little mini documentary on Serpent Mound and stuff for my YouTube channel. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. He said, as long as I can get a feature for the shop. And I said, of course. Oh, yeah. Why wouldn't I do that? He said, well, I recently done an interview with a woman, and she wouldn't allow, after she done finished the recording, allow me to get a plug. Dude. And I'm like, no, dude, that's ridiculous.
I heard all about that.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to spend your time to talk to me? I'm going to give you a plug. But he was like, he had some customers, and Terry was sitting in the back next to the trilobite glass case over there in the corner. And there was another elderly Indian woman and her husband, but they were back there playing flute and talking about all kinds of stuff. So I just sat back there with them, man. And I was actually talking to him about Chief Joseph Riverwind. I had just recently met him, and I got to hold that Nephilim spear lance that they found in Michigan. So I was showing them pictures of that and stuff. So I had a really good time hanging out with them.
Oh my gosh. You got the full experience, Justin.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. People just find that place. It is a magnet. The house, the rock shop, I think the whole property, there's definitely a lot of spiritual energy kind of moving through that area. That's where there's a fault line there. And so, when the winds and storms pick up, a lot of times it'll zap out batteries and cars and video equipment. And it's just got a really weird energy overall, not just the simple fact of, it's like, how do people like Tom and Terry end up right there? there's something that drew them there, right? They're being guided by a greater force. You call it God, the Great Spirit, Jesus. I don't care what you want to say, but there is something greater, I think, that's driving all of us. And it just depends, I think, sometimes how tuned in you are and how much you're on the path. And I just don't think Tom and Terry were ever one of those people that ever got off the path or ever got kind of distracted with what was in their heart or what was guiding them, a greater force that was guiding them. And if you allow that to happen, you end up being a Tom or a Terry, living near Serpent Mound, really trusting your heart and, your guardian angels or your spirit guides, whatever you want to call them. It's, we have our ancestors and these people, I think, that are looking after us, and you got to trust that, and you're doing it, Justin. You have a higher calling to do this podcast and started. I can see the passion in your show. You are doing this because you absolutely love it. You're completely obsessed, and you've got something higher that's driving you to do this. I can see it. So kudos to you and everything you've done with Prometheus Lens, man. You're killing it.
And I appreciate it. But honestly, when I first come across your show, I was just I think I was Instagram scrolling and I come across your show, and immediately the first thing was just like, dude, this is like well put together. The graphics, the sound, the studio, man, it's just amazing. So, I mean, guys, I can't encourage you enough to check this show out. But now once I got to know you and talk to you, it's like, well, yeah, man, these guys been doing this for a long time. So, care to just give like a little background with that? Like, how did you first get involved with this? And you were just like doing live concerts and stuff like that?
Yeah. So for a long time, I had no direction. I had no not desire. I knew I needed to do something creative. I played a lot of sports in high school. Me and my co-host Bub, we were kind of like class clowns, but also jocks, but also we were in the play. We did theater all 4 years. We were lead actors in the play and in these comedic plays that we would do every year. And we actually quit the baseball team to pursue acting in theater in high school, but we were also football players. And, it was just kind of like this. We were from a small town here in Ohio, and high school football is like the biggest thing in the world. And so we played a lot of sports growing up, but we were kind of just different kids. We were interested in a lot of different things. And, when I was in high school, I really wanted to go study acting and different things and something creative. And, it's like, well, how are you going to make money with that? Your parents are looking at this going, well, you got to have health insurance. You got to pay rent. You got to be able to do these things. And I said, I don't really care. This is what I would like to do with my life. I want to go, get into a theater program. And they're like, well, you're good with computers. Maybe you should try computer science. So I go to this school to study computers, and within a semester, I've failed out. Not even failed. I just didn't go to class. I didn't enjoy the people, the classmates.
Not interested.
I was okay. I got a little technical ability. As you can see, eventually, I got into video production, which we'll get there, and use my technical skills to kind of, jump into that world. But I'm no computer scientist. I'm no, not a guy that's going to, network a building for you. And so I failed out of school, stopped going to class, and, started taking sales jobs, selling cars, started selling phones, did door-to-door sales, did landscaping, went back to selling phones multiple times, because back then you could make a decent living selling phones, but working in those retail stores were just absolutely soul-sucking. That's why I would go into a store, work for a while, quit, do something else, because, you're dealing with the public, you're dealing with people's phone issues. You're constantly, it's just a barrage of absorbing everyone's problems and issues. And it just really got to me. And so, with my
creative minds have to get away from the monotony. You know what I mean? Well, the robotic,
You're right. You're right, man. And the thing with that is, how do I want to say this? you can do things. A lot of people can sit in a cubicle, be an accountant. If you're good with numbers, you should be an accountant. You should be somebody that, assists somebody like me that's horrible at math. Like, you have a purpose with your talent. I'm not someone that I like to tell everybody, I tell Bub, Bub always laughs when I say this, but I'm a terrible employee. If you hire me, I'm going to come in late, take long lunches, and try to leave early every single day. I am not a good employee. So I'll do great at a job for a while, but then all of a sudden that starts to wear on me because I'm not on the path that I should be. So I start subconsciously destroying my opportunity with the company, with the owner, with the people I'm working with, and I'll either get fired, I'll get frustrated, I'll quit. So I just went from opportunity to opportunity, job to job, whatever you want to say, until finally I just got fed up. And, my wife, with all her wisdom, was so all about education, because I was doing video production for like 5 years, running around. I had a YouTube channel. I'd sneak into concerts and shoot concerts and upload that to YouTube. I was helping out local hip hop artists and rock bands, and, getting paid $50 to come out and shoot. I had a little video camera, and taught myself how to edit the best I could. So, I was doing that and just banging my head against the wall. And we took a trip for our anniversary, our 1 year anniversary. There was an eclipse at Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, which is in the Navajo Nation, up north in northern New Mexico. A very remote place, absolutely astonishing ancient sites, which are these kiva structures that are built. Nobody knows what they were built for, who the Chacoans were, or there's multiple names for these people of who they could have been. The Anasazi, the Chacoans, depending on who you're talking to. But we went to Chaco Canyon for this annular solar eclipse. I said, holy crap, I can't believe that this eclipse is in the pathway. Let's drive there and go camp in the national park. And, so we did. And it was a heck of a journey out there. We had so much fun. And then the day that we roll in, this massive sandstorm, like like you see in the movies, man. I'm talking legitimate, old school, like, what you see in a John Wayne film. You can't see 2 feet in front of your face. The sand is coming into every single, we're trying to set up a tent. The tent's blown away. I'm holding on to the stakes and the tent is literally flying up in the air. We're trying to set up camp, and we had these, and so we're like, oh, let's just give up. Like, we had some issues with our campsite that had gotten double booked. So we're kind of arguing with the ranger.
Are you a hunter or hiker or prepper, or just someone that enjoys the great outdoors? Whichever case that may be, Squatch Survival Gear has you covered. Not only is this a veteran-owned company, all of the products are 100% made in America, baby. All the way down to the fabric and every stitch. So whether it's a day hike, a weekend getaway, or the ultimate bug out bag, head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com and use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide. Hey, if you're tuning in every single week, then that means you enjoyed the content. But did you know that there's an all-access pass for less than one stop at McDonald's? Can get you a month's worth of members-only episodes, access to a private community of like-minded brothers and sisters. This also gives you a monthly Q&A with authors and speakers and guests that we've had on the show. And not only is this just all for you, you are also helping to ensure that I keep doing this show each and every single week. I know lots of people that support podcasts that if you stop subscribing, they'd never even know you were gone, because they don't need your money. They don't need your funds. I'm a working class guy, 9 to 5, just like the rest of you. So not only am I working 40 plus hours a week, I'm coming home, reading, studying, doing interviews, cutting these videos, and giving you guys some great infotainment. So if you enjoy the content, hey, help me out with a cheeseburger or a Happy Meal once a month, and you will see every bit of that get reinvested into this show and things that will just filter straight back to you, the listener. I would love to be doing this full time, but if you're enjoying the content at the level that I'm producing now, you can imagine the level and volume of content that I'd produce if this was my full-time ministry. So thank you for the love and support and the views that I get. I'm averaging right now 13 to 15,000 downloads a month. So if any of you guys feel compelled, hey, sign up and join us on the hero's journey and get the all access pass. Because not only do you get 48-hour early access, you get monthly members chats and Q&As, access to the private community, members only exclusive content. You are also helping to ensure that I keep doing what you are enjoying. So head on over to PrometheusLensPodcast.com, follow the members link, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
He's like, oh, well, this isn't your site. There's already people here. I was like, well, I have all the paperwork. This is my site number. And he's like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go. There's no more spots. So we're like, what? Hold on a second. And this is as we're setting up our tent in this sandstorm. This ranger's telling us now that we got to pack up and go back to Ohio. So the couple that was the area, the campsite, the other couple came up and was like, listen, there's plenty of space. You just have this one tent. Why don't you just set up right here? And he tells the ranger, it's no problem. It's no problem at all. And the ranger's like, are you sure? It's no. Okay. Well, if you're okay with that, cool. So all of a sudden we're like, you know what? Maybe we should just leave. Maybe we should just go. We're not meant to be here. You know, this sandstorm we can't even get our tent set up. Like, this is just extreme, but you're being tested. The universe is testing you when you go into these areas. When you go into these areas, it is not an easy process. Like it, you know, it is definitely
from a Christian perspective. We always say, you know, it's Satan hits you the hardest when there's about to be a huge blessing, and most people give in.
I love that, Justin, because that 100%, that is what happened. So next thing you know, we had 10 people from all these campsites coming in to help us stake our tent down, get all of our gear safely in there. We ended up, we camped at a KOA outside of Albuquerque, right underneath the Sandia Mountain. Amazing. And I cooked fish tacos on this little grill. And the guy next to us was from Baja, Mexico, on the peninsula of Baja, had moved there 20 years ago, telling us how he got just fed up with America and moved to Baja. So I ended up making him tacos. We're eating all these tacos, hanging out with this dude. He's got all these cool stories. And so we had a couple left over. So like, hey, when we get to Chaco Canyon, we'll just eat these cold tacos and it'll be great. So after we set up our tent, the wind's still coming, it's still blowing, and I got the tacos sitting there on this picnic table, and all of a sudden I grab them to pick one up, and the whole thing flies off the table into the sand, and my wife just starts crying.
Oh, God. The straw that broke the camel's back.
She was so hungry. We were so hungry. Like, these fish tacos would have totally saved our whole, you know how it is when you're traveling and you just like need little things to kind of keep you going. And it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened, dude. So we sit in the car, we wait it out. As soon as the sun goes down, it's just completely calm. And the sky just opens up and you could see there's no light pollution. You're on the Navajo reservation way out there. And you can see the stripe. It's the first time I saw the real Milky Way galaxy. The Native Americans have the pathway of the souls. There's an archaeologist here in Ohio that has this whole idea of this spiritual process of writing on the back of Cygnus through the Milky Way galaxy. It's kind of like the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's the same type of concept where when you pass, there's this system that you go through and your soul travels to be able to get to heaven or, whatever it is whatever you want to call it. And so I'm just sitting there looking at this. I'm like, I totally get this now. Once you see the Milky Way galaxy, you're like, why are we living in cities? Why do we have all this light pollution? You're telling me ancient people would look up and see this every single night? Well, no wonder our society is sick. No wonder we're struggling. No, we don't have a connection to looking at the stars every single night. You know, where I grew up out in the country, you could see the stars and everything, but still, it's not like being out that remote, dude, is just undescribable. And I've had that experience since then, one or two other times being in a remote place.
East Tennessee's a lot like that, man. Because I grew up in the mountains, and it's all rural farmland. That there is no street lights.
Right. Exactly. And that's it. You know, you get a little higher in elevation. Like Chaco Canyon, I think is like 7,000 feet in elevation. So it's up there. You know, it's called the high desert. And, you know, there's all these mesas and valleys, but, you know, at night it gets cold. You know, it gets chilly.
Sturgis.
Mm-hmm.
I had that same experience. Me and my ex-wife went to Sturgis.
Yeah.
And man, it was so hot during the day, and we had a campsite and laid it out, man. And then the sun dropped, and we were freezing to death. We ended up taking our blow-up mattress. Luckily, we had a big Jeep, so we laid the seats down and put the air mattress in it and slept in there. And then the next night, we made sure we got a bunch of long sleeve shirts and hoodies and stuff.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah. It's crazy. We slept with hoodies on. Luckily I had a knit hat, and a beanie. So we put all that on, and you know, the high desert comes to life at night because it's hot during the day. So all the animals are out at night. You got birds chirping like it's, 6 o'clock in the morning when you get up to milk cows. You know, when you get up to go to work, real early in the day, you hear all these birds, and that's what it's like at night in the desert. You know, high desert, Chaco Canyon. My wife and I were there for this eclipse. Very difficult first day in Chaco Canyon without the assistance of amazing people coming to support us, coming to help us get our tent set up, talking us into staying, ended up patching it up with the ranger and being cool with him. Cause he was kind of mean. He was kind of, he wasn't nice about what was happening. It's like, hey man, I'm not just some shady guy that's trying to get a free campsite. Like here, I got all the
I paid for it and traveled all the way across the country, bub.
Yeah, exactly. So, the next day it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So we had taken our bikes. We went on a bike ride. We went to Pueblo Bonito, which is an 80,000 square foot ancient structure with multiple stories and levels. And because these are, it's like Serpent Mound, it's like any of these places, you got to kind of get above it, fly a drone, get in a plane. So we climbed up the cliffs because all these structures are down in this canyon, this Chaco Canyon. And so we found out that there's an old waterfall, a dried up waterfall creek bed that comes down from the cliff, and it's like a stair step. You can just climb right up the thing, and it's not hard at all. It's an easy hike. You got to just be careful, watch where you're going. And so we're riding bikes, and it's not just Pueblo Bonito. There are, I don't know, 50, maybe more. I mean, I think there's probably some of these, they call them Pueblos. I don't think they're Pueblos. That's just the word that they use for those structures. And so there's tons of these things. Pueblo Bonito is just the biggest, largest one. And so we climb up above, and I'm shooting all this with my old school I had this whole trip documented, by the way, photographed, filmed, the whole 9 yards. And so, once you get above on the cliff and you look down at Pueblo Bonito, you just go, oh my God, what the heck was this thing? 'Cause it's a half moon. It's a half circle with all of these circles, or kivas is what they're called. And there's these rooms that are squared with all of these weird windows. And then the windows go into another window, and you can see like the repeating windows and doorways that are all lined up with another door. but then they lead to these big kivas where all these people could be in there doing what? Something ceremonial, maybe. Is it like some kind of consciousness shifting place where you go into these kivas and you can travel like portals, or some people think they're portals. Are they places where you can meditate and kind of go inward and go to other dimensions or go to other planes of existence? But, people were traveling to this place all over. And so, we went to this talk. There's an archaeoastronomer named Dr. Kim Malville that was out there for this eclipse. So we found out that he was giving a talk. So we went to his talk, and he told us about how he built the observatory that's out there. He designed it. He built it so he could start researching all of the ancient alignments to the solstices, the planets, the sun, the moon, the movements of the stars. He knew that there was definitely alignments out there, but nobody had done any work to prove it. So him and his wife lived out there, dude, for like years. This guy, we find out, after his talk, I just had to meet him. So I was just kind of hanging around and waiting for an opportunity. And then all of a sudden he sees my wife and says, "Hey, are you Indian?" And my wife said, "Yeah, my father's from Detour. My mom's white, but I'm half Indian." And he goes, "I thought so. I got bored of astrobiology. So I moved to India for 10 years and studied Vedic astronomy. And that's how I became an archaeoastronomer." And so he had this long career, I guess, as a biologist, and just got totally bored with it and moved to India. So we hit it off, and then he ended up inviting us to Pueblo Bonito the next day to hang out during the annular solar eclipse, to hang out with him and his wife. And they had solar filtered telescopes out there. They had there was a whole family of these Cherokee that had found out about this and came from the East. And you had all these people, and they were doing, little events and cool little things where we came together and did activities. And, I'm shooting photos through the little eyepiece on this giant, huge telescope. And it's, so you can track the sun, the moon, and going in front of the sun. And, he asked me, "So, what are you doing with your life? You seem like you got a lot of interest. You're really passionate about all this stuff." I go, "Well, I'll tell you the truth, Dr. Kim, I'm not doing a whole lot. I'm right now trying to figure out if I want to go back to school to study history, archaeology, or I'm doing this video thing. I'm doing this photography thing. Do you have any advice for me? What do you think I should do? I'm going to go back to school for something." And he said, don't become an archaeologist. Don't go in there and study history. Keep doing the video thing. We need guys like you out here documenting places like this. And I went, boom. He hit that nerve in me, Justin, and it was on, dude. That was if you guys have watched our last episode, tribute to Jim Bowser, he was a big part early on to kind of get me, pushing me in the right direction. And Jim, unbelievable guy, and he's given me advice and it got me on that path. But Dr. Kim really was the linchpin, because we're at this solar eclipse. We're at Pueblo Bonito. I have this guy, giving me this advice. We got home back to Ohio, and within 3 or 4 days, I had enrolled into a film and video production class, a program at Columbus State here in Columbus, Ohio. And it took me about 2.5 years. I delivered pizzas. I hustled video gigs on the side to make ends meet, put myself through school, really struggled financially. It was a rough go. And then I got an internship at Promo West Productions, which is a concert production company here in town that has 5 venues. And they did a little TV show. They do IMAG, which is the video walls. When you go to a concert or a festival, you see the band up on the walls. Mm-hmm. So they do some of that stuff. And I got an internship with them, and because I was volunteering and I had a reel of concerts and stuff I was already doing and hustling. And so, within that 3-month semester, I shot 54 concerts and edited 13 episodes for the TV show. And when I graduated, I was essentially a professional camera operator. So I started doing reality TV, still working for Ron at Promo West, working with Stoner. Now my business, Stoner's the technical wizard behind everything that Justin was telling you guys about with the studio. You know, a lot of this, none of this stuff would be capable. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of this stuff without those guys. They're the technical geniuses and my mentors that really kind of, you know, brought me down this path. And so, you know, Ron, the guy that hired me, ended up finding another opportunity. So I ended up taking over as director of video production for Promo West for 3 years. And that kind of through just building and building and building. And we were doing so much cool stuff for other people that I had to. This was always the goal was to never be the best camera guy or director or producer. The goal was to create my own content. That is why I got into video production, that I'm not trying to go work for somebody as an editor or a camera guy or a DP or a gaffer or a grip. No, I want to make stuff with my friends and make cool things that I'm passionate about. Part of that was a podcast. Part of that was little documentaries. And so in 2020, everything went away and we started the podcast and started running around shooting stuff and helping Tom and Terry. And that's kind of, you know, we've gone through kind of ebbs and flows because we are running a company. We have clients, we service, you know, board meetings for corporate clients and we love them all to death. And, but, you know, juggling all of our schedules and, you know, so this year kind of a lot of things started changing. You know, Stoner got an opportunity with another company to work on a really high level in broadcast. So, you know, a lot of his time got pulled away. So if you guys haven't noticed, we've had the show shut down for a few months, because we just I had to figure out so many things behind the scenes with, you know, the partnership and the business side of things. And so, part of me coming on your show is just say, hey, we're back. Strange Road is back. We're putting out stuff. We're working on things right now, recording, getting back into the flow of things with kind of a new same crew, but I have a lot more creative control over everything that's happening now, and so it's a fresh start for all of us, and we're so stoked for the future.
Yeah, it's awesome, and that's something, man. It's like a lot of people don't realize there's so much into it. And it's like from my side, you know, I mean, I'm just a simpleton. I have a camera and do some editing. And I actually was fortunate enough to have a guy come on and just loved my content and wanted to help. Yeah. And he's been editing and helping me out with that. But like, you know, the production level that you got, man, that's a team. That's a village.
It takes
a team. All different people with families and schedules and jobs. And yeah, man, you could definitely produce excellent content on a regular basis. But the problem is most people want it's like the coffee jar at church.
Yeah.
You know, everybody will come through and drink the coffee every day, but they'll never put $1 in that jar.
Right.
But they're the first ones that'll complain when there's no coffee there.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, if people would buy the shirts, get the subscriptions and do all these things to support the stuff that they love so much, it could help keep it going. And then these people could quit their other jobs and focus mainly on this, and then it would get 100 times better, you know? So it's just one of those double-edged sword things.
Yeah. Oh man, you nailed it on the head. That's exactly it. You know, and it's all learning.
And I hear it all the time. All money's tight right now. Man, homeless people come up with $5 to $10 a day for their addictions, and most subscriptions are $5 to $10 a month. And we're asking you to buy us a Happy Meal, dude. Yep. Nobody's that broke. It's just you don't want to contribute to the content. So just say that, you know?
Right. Well, people there's so much. Like, how many Patreons can you pay $3 a month for? Like, if you listen to 6 shows, Are you going to be going membership for all 6 of those shows in Patreon to not have ads? Or are you going to bite the bullet and just listen for free on Spotify or Apple or whatever and just put up with the ads and skip through them? It's like, are we some people's number one show? Yeah, we are. I think we have, and I'm sure you're some people's number one show too. And the thing is to like some of the things that we were focused on is just like getting frustrated with how are we not growing? Our show is pretty good. I think, it's excellent. Looking at like the projections of, getting wrapped up into, having to monetize and all it's a trap. It's a trap. The thing is, and what we had to go through and what we're going to be focused on now is just simply having these great conversations. I mean, you saw what we were doing in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We were making reels and clips and TikToks and just killing ourselves, trying to do what all these big shows are doing that have, like Tom Segura and Theo Vaughn and some of these huge shows that have teams of editors. They have big, we're also, that's what they're doing full time. So when we have gigs and things that pop up, the show has to take a back seat. We can't be consistently doing all this stuff all the time. So slimming back a lot of the things that I just don't think matter, the social media, you're going to find new listeners, but how many times does somebody from Instagram come and listen to your show? Or, they're there for your reels, maybe just an Instagram. They might not ever go to your YouTube or listen to your show. They just like your content on Instagram. So like some people just get stuck on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. And, to get them over to YouTube or Spotify or Apple to watch or listen. So, it's like how much of that really matters. And, focusing on the episodes, the conversations, having time and the ability to do more research about topics that we want to cover. So that's where we're at. And we're really, really excited.
Yeah, dude, that's what I think so awesome is like, you feel called to do certain things. You felt called to document this stuff and go to these sites. And I love these conversations. When I get on with Dr. Judd or Steve Quayle and these guys that that are legends in my mind, that I grew up reading their stuff and watching their stuff, to just be able to sit down with them and conversate with them and throw ideas and go back and forth. I absolutely love that. And I'd do that if nobody was watching. I'd done it for quite a long time with nobody watching. But now it's starting to grow and I'm getting people watching, and that's great. Right. But of course, it's like I'm doing this with a full-time job, so I'm working 80 plus hours a week, cutting reels, doing all that stuff. But it's like, you can't help but think it's like, God, I would love to do this full-time.
Yeah. And you'll get there, Justin. I know you will. Yeah. I see the passion. You, more than anybody, I think, we looked, and you're one of the shows that we looked at. And said, look at Justin. We're video professionals. Look at Justin. You think Justin's a video professional? You think Cryptids of the Corn guys? We have the skills and the ability and the knowledge to do all this stuff. They do not let that get in the way of doing it because they don't know how to do video and all this other shit. I'm sorry, excuse my language.
Oh, you're good.
But it doesn't stop Justin from Prometheus Lens to push this thing as hard as it can go and to consistently put out episodes and just look at the guy. He's obsessed. So I looked at what you were doing. I looked at what other shows were doing, and I'm just like, we got to take it back to that. Yeah, you're still doing reels and you're doing all the video stuff. And I'm like, we're struggling to try to, because we're video professionals, we think we have to do everything. Yeah. But guess what? Everything takes a team. Not everybody can be on the same page all the time. Yeah. So
comparison kills shows.
Yeah.
I mean, it kills everything. Look at people, I use women as this example, but women already are very internal creatures. And then they get on Facebook and they see the mother of the year posting all this great stuff she's doing. She's always got the perfect makeup, the perfect woman. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They put all this pressure of comparing themselves to other people. And the same thing with content creators.
Yeah.
You know, we look at other content creators and we're like, dude, you know, I want to be at that level, or maybe I need to do what they're doing. It's like, nah, man, it's pretty simple. And we confuse things. Find what you love. And run after it. You know, everybody's path's different.
Absolutely. And that's, you're doing it, man. You're definitely doing it. You know, I got kind of going back to, you know, you asked, you know, how did I get into all this stuff? I've been obsessed with the paranormal since I was a kid. I mean, I did a report in first grade where I wanted to go to Duke University to be a parapsychologist because I had heard from Ghostbusters that they were parapsychologists. And I had my mom look up, I went to the library and found out that Duke University had the only parapsychology program in the country. And so my teacher's like, what is this kid talking about? And, you know, I was always obsessed with Bigfoot, aliens, UFOs, used to watch Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, Beyond Belief. And back then there was just no content on TV for this kind of stuff. So, you know, you kind of had to wait around for, you know, a certain show to come on or whatever. And, you know, that I never lost that thirst for just knowing the paranormal. I got very obsessed with, spirits, demonology, researching demons, researching exorcisms. That got really dark. There was a point where I basically had to completely stop looking into that because I started having these weird occurrences and it felt like I was kind of opening these doors, to these darker energies to come in. I kind of felt like I was being followed around. You want to call them shadow people. I was partying a lot back then. So I wasn't really exuding positive light energy, you know, so things got real weird. And I think that contributed to my depression during those times before I was really pursuing my passion. But, you know, I had, you know, listened to countless former Satanists talk about, you know, high level in the Satanic Church, Freemasonry, you know, they're witches, they're warlocks. This guy was a part of it. Robert Schneebly, I think was his name, Bob Schneebly. You can still YouTube he gives all of these presentations and talks about, you know, being born again and his path to becoming a Christian and, you know, and the things that, you know, a lot of these guys I would consider myself a Christian. I'm a different type of Christian. I have, you know, I have my own personal relationship with Christ. Okay. I'm not a religious person. I grew up Catholic, so that kind of ruined me for religion forever. Bub and I both grew up in a Catholic community. And so I kind of had to come full circle with Jesus and understanding what this was all about and having that relationship. Because, you know, I just didn't even think he was a real historical person. I didn't even think he was real at all. At one point I was like totally all rebelling against Christianity as a whole and these things. And until I started having these kind of dark experiences, you know, with these kind of shadow people and weird stuff. And that got me into, you know, looking into these guys talking about these experiences and how the word of Christ and all these things, you know, you bring that in and it's like a protection. So I was like, okay, yeah. All right. Well, let me test this out a little bit. So I kind of started, you know, repeating some of these mantras and protection prayers and things like that. And slowly, I wouldn't say I became a born again Christian or anything like that and started going to church or whatever, but I definitely understood that there's some kind of power there that protects you from darkness. There definitely was. I mean, you know, I didn't go and get baptized and born again or anything like that. But like I said, during that time, I was also, looking into the lost years of Jesus. I was looking into Jesus in India is a fantastic documentary that everybody should watch that talks about, where did Jesus go from the time he was, whatever it was, 9 years old until he was 32 and he came back and enters the Bible again. Well, I believe he was journeying all across the world, learning how to heal people, learning energy healing and this work that we hear about, these miracles. Well, maybe they weren't these miracles in the sense of you're this magical God man, but maybe it's this school, this mystery school that he was searching for and had developed the abilities to heal, to meditate and be able to bring in higher consciousness of understanding and the Christ consciousness, and learning about some of these things is like, what does Christ even mean? Well, that just means that you're essentially, your consciousness has elevated into higher dimensions. Jesus Christ was just a label that was given to him because he was an enlightened being, kind of like Buddha, or, some of these, what the White Brotherhood would call ascended masters, these beings that are kind of born over and over and over again at time of need. Thoth the Atlantean, the Kuku Khan, you have, Enki and Enlil in the Sumerian times. And so, I'm not sold on any of these things, but as I went down this path,
you're more of like a Gnostic type leaning, Jesus follower is what you're trying, or what I'm hearing.
And it's because I just think that, some of these things, if they were left out or kind of left behind, and, with the expanse of time and history that goes along, it's like, the gospel's being written close to 100 years after he was born. I don't like getting in these debates with people. I know a bit of the history, but, to me.
And that's what I was going to say. Some people, I can be honest with you, some people that follow my show will immediately get really worked up at what you were saying. And they'll even probably come at me and be like, why didn't you correct him? I'm here to have good conversations with people, and
I apologize to all of you. If you're
good.
To everybody out there, this is just how I got to this place of where I am as a spiritual person.
And you're on the journey. Me coming at you, if I'm trying to get you to come to accepting Jesus Christ as the Son of God, and I do, and that it was magical and it was nothing realistic, I'm not going to get you by you're wrong, and I'm going to pray for you.
It was magical. I still think, I'm just saying how Jesus got there. I'm not discounting all the miracles and the amazing stuff that he did. Don't take that off the table. What I'm saying is that there was a process for him to get there. We all have to. He was a man. Yes, he was this. Sure. Was he the Son of God? Sure. If you want to believe that, great. I think so too. But I think just like everybody, I'm not saying we can all become Christ-like or Jesus himself or anything like that. I think he was special. I think he did come from that line of these beings. I really, really do. And it's weird because there's a lot of these type of beings that have similar stories. And I think it doesn't discount the amazing the amazing stuff that's going on with Jesus' story. None of this, I think it makes it more amazing. I think it makes it way more cool that Jesus went to India and studied with the Brahmins and got kicked out of India because he was pushing against the patriarch of the Brahmins. And he was pushing against this ancient Hindu hierarchy of patriarchy. And he got kicked out of the temples and they booted him. For what everything I can tell, he got forced out of India. And then he went up into Tibet. And there's an ancient temple, a Tibetan temple, where they have these scrolls that talk about this Master Isa that came to their land. And this scroll is still under glass way up in the mountains. And it survived even when China took over Tibet. from what I understand, it may have been hidden and taken off because this documentary, when they were shooting all this, was kind of old. This is like, I think they were shooting a lot of this stuff in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And so by the time I was looking into all this, it was, you know, it wasn't like super current information. But you have these stories about Isa, or, you know, these names of this person that came to the land that was healing people and stirring up trouble because Jesus was a rebel. That's what I love about the story. He's a rad dude. He was like, I don't give a your money changing in the temple. This Babylonian money magic system that you guys are trying to enslave us with debt. No. Does that sound familiar? How about the IRS? How about the Federal Reserve?
Do you have a podcast or small business? Do you want to expose that business or podcast to thousands of people each week for an entire year for less than one car payment?
Now you have my attention.
I'm looking for sponsors of this show. I know you have seen and heard the Kevlar Joe ads on the podcast and YouTube channel. I can do the same for your podcast or business each and every week. I promise you, you're not going to find a better advertisement value for your buck. My contact info can be found on my website, PrometheusLensPodcast.com, or reach out to me on social media. Let's talk, and let me show you how you can grow your brand effectively and cheaply.
How about all of these institutions that are essentially the same exact system that Jesus was fighting, that the Babylonians had created this money system debt even way back when. And the ancient Jews were connected to Babylonia. They were fighting this stuff. Many, many people have been fighting this financial terrorism, this financial slavery since way before Jesus. He was just one of the rebel rad dudes that stood up and said, this is not right. So that is what I love about He
was the original heretic.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I think there's so many things that we don't know about him that I can't fully say yes or no on yet, because I think he was so important that people worked really, really hard to hide certain things about his life. In the missing years of Jesus and him going to, I think he went to England. There's a lot of evidence that he was in England. His Joseph of Arimathea was his uncle. Joseph of Arimathea.
Yeah, he was a tin merchant, went to England to get all the tin. I talked to David Roll not too long ago, and he was talking about all that and the Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah, dude. And there's a place that even we met a lady, Denise Sanderkin. I still know your name, Denise. If you're out there and would ever listen to this podcast, look me up, because I've been trying to find you. And Denise, she's the one that told me about this stuff randomly. This lady is like, I drove here from Illinois and something told me that I had to be here today. I don't know what it was, but I had to go to Serpent Mound. And here you guys are. She did this drumming ceremony for us and then told us about how she was compelled, because she's a Christian, and she was compelled to go to England, where Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea had connected in this one spot. And it's St. Michael's Tor. If you've ever heard of St. Michael's Tor, it's an ancient, it's not ancient, but it's an old castle structure of this area. And it's on top of an ancient structure. And then the Christian, those groups came in and built this St. Michael's Tor. She had traveled to England and kind of was guided to track down, the story of
you said Jesus and Arimathea.
Yes. And, why can't I think of his name? King Arthur. So the King Arthur legends, and supposedly King Arthur's buried in this area. It's there's Jesus and King Arthur and Archangel Michael. And so they built this Tor because there's all of this serpent energy, like Serpent Mound. It's ley lines. That's what these serpent, iconography, oh my God, The serpent iconography and all these things are basically just representing ley lines and energy that's moving through. And so these ancient sites are built on these areas. And so they built St. Michael's Tor, the Christians did, to basically harness that serpent energy. So if you hear about, the story of St. Patrick driving the serpents out of Ireland, well, it's not actual snakes. It's those serpent cults that he was driving out. That was the people that were still studying pagan religion. And so the early Christians at that time are really building these temples like St. Michael's Tor on all these much more ancient sites that were harnessing this energy. So the Christians, they all knew about this. And they did a lot of those things in Mexico as well.
Oh yeah. I was about to bring up in South America, when they took over all those sacred sites and stuff, they built churches over them. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly what. Yep. And, so Denise started kind of traveling down this path of all of these serpentine locations. And so she ended up at Serpent Mound and it's just fascinating when did I think Jesus and his followers and Mary Magdalene and some of these folks, were they hip to this information? I do think they were. I don't think that they were these, like hippie people running around in the woods, worshiping deities. I don't think it was that, but I think they were definitely maybe a part of some type of society. John the Baptist, they were a part of these groups, the Essenes, and, like I said, who really knows, but it does seem that there's evidence of Jesus going to this area that I just talked about, where St. Michael's Tor is. So you have all of these stories that he's interwoven with, and who knows if any of it's true. I just think it's so cool to learn, like when I learned that, holy cow, there's people that are researching the lost years of Jesus. Because even when I was a kid in Catholic, in religion class, on every Wednesday, we had to go to religion class for an hour and a half. And I would ask these type of questions and I couldn't get any answers. Like my teachers, my religion teachers, my priests, none of them liked me because it was very difficult to answer any of the questions. Yeah. So, but the Bible's so important because it's part of the history. But I think all of these ancient texts are important. The Bhagavad Gita, the ancient Hindu texts, Sanskrit texts, and they're not saying anything that much different than what the Christians and the Jewish people are saying. I think the origin of a lot of religions and these groups are, these.
But they all stem from an ancient source, I believe. Because even in the Bible, it talks about the Tower of Babel. That we were once one people, one language, sharing the same stories.
Exactly.
And then, of course, once the languages were busted up, they took it off to their lands and their different languages, and the telephone game happened.
Yep.
The more you tell a story, caveats get added to it, and twists and turns happen.
Yeah.
But I love how David, when I was talking with him, he said people need to distinguish the difference between legends and myths.
Yeah.
He said myths are totally made up, unfactual. He said legends, he said, are historical events, but with extravagant details and elaborations and stuff added to them. He said so. But even your myths, he said, all these things, he said, in the very least, have a seed or kernel of truth.
Absolutely.
And it stems out from there. So I'm with you on that. All those things are worth looking into and seeing how they tie in.
Right. And if Jesus really was this rebel that we all know he was this paradigm shifting kind of dude, right? You don't think that he was looking into all this stuff? You don't think he was looking into Egyptian mystery schools? Come on, guys. I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm just trying to tell you that when you have somebody of that caliber, there's no way they're just sitting there following the same routine and information as the people that came before him.
Yeah. And I agree with your thought process. My only difference with me and you is where I would say that where you're looking at it as he would go out looking for these things because he had a curious mind and wanted to know them. I look at it as, well, he was the Son of God. He was God incarnate. He already knew all these things. So from my perspective, of course, I mean, it's perspective, it's opinion. Yeah. But it's like Genesis 6, fallen angels came down, bred with the daughters of men, and they taught mankind this forbidden knowledge and these secrets. It said, taught them the cutting of roots, astronomy, all these different things. Yeah. And so that's how they got it. So it's like, if, Jesus was the Son of God, if he was God incarnate, he knew all this stuff anyway. Yeah,
I totally get where you're coming from. And again, but I look at early on, John the Baptist. Not a lot of people know much about John the Baptist. If you look into John the Baptist and Mary Magdalene, they had brought in Jesus, I believe, into this. And he was the Son of God. I think they knew that he was special. I think they brought him in and sought him out into these groups. And I think they were mentors of his. Yeah, he's the Son of God, but everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs somebody to guide them along a path as a young man. And bringing you into this spiritual world, I just think, it doesn't make it any less amazing if that was true. And I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying these are the things that I've found. I'm still working through all this. Maybe one day I'll come to the conclusion that, well, he was the Son of God. He already knew all this stuff too. But I'm just not there yet.
You're think on the journey, man. You got to let them walk. You got to let people walk.
And it's been a long journey. And part of the Strange Road, we have Joel Thomas on, the boys from Cryptids of the Corn, Mr. E and J. They're all Christians. Born again Christians have, kind of I think I would compare them more to, in line with you, Justin. Listen to Joel talk about the book of Enoch. I can listen to those guys talk about, all these different things. And we can have a civilized conversation where nobody gets mad or upset, because I'll talk to them about these same things. And, Joel Thomas he'd be a great guest, by the way. He does a lot of stuff with Tony Merkel and the Confessionals and Merkel Media now. And I think Joel has his own podcast, but he used to be part of Kill the Mockingbirds. I think he's still living in Cincinnati, Ohio, but Joel Thomas, shout out to him. Very, very knowledgeable. You should totally, I'll connect you with him. Your audience would love Joel. Joel used to be an entertainer in the music business, started making his rise up into
isn't his podcast Down the Rabbit Hole or something like that? The red-headed guy?
Yes. Goatee, bald, ripped, redhead guy. Great dude. But Joel had gone through all of this and got there. He was, you can let Joel tell a story, but essentially he was getting into Freemasonry, had gotten recruited into some of these secret society kind of things. And, they're like, hey, in order to get here, you got to do this. And he started doing these little rituals and ceremonies, and then shit got real dark real fast. And Joel basically brought in the power of Jesus into his life and totally changed his life. He quit the industry. He got out of all that. He's doing what he's doing now with the music that he's doing now, and totally changed his life. And I love those stories because, like I was saying, this Robert Schneebly and all these Satanists and people, former Satanists, I was watching and reading all of their stuff and going, wow, you're getting into the darkest. And the only way out was the light of Jesus, and taking that name and bringing it in for protection. And then here you go. I have Joel Thomas telling me the same thing. And so, I've met all these people that have had these dark experiences, and that was the way out. So like I said,
Karen Wilkinson,
I know all these things and have utilized that power in myself too. But I'm still detangling the story of it all, right? Like I told you, I have a relationship with God in my own way. It's no different connection that you or your listeners have. I'm just thinking about it in a different way. And I don't try to offend people. it's the strange road, man. It really is a strange road. My life, my path, and it's not over. When I'm 60 or 70, maybe I'll come to the conclusion that you'll
be a Thomas. You'll be a Thomas. You'll have a rock shop and talking all these interesting topics with everybody passing through.
Right. Exactly.
Well, man, before I let you go, I know you've suffered through with the heat and stuff, man. I'm sorry. I appreciate you.
Oh, it's all good.
Let everybody know where they can find your show, links, socials, all that kind of stuff, and what do they got to look forward to this next season?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on, so our website is thestrangeroad.com. You can find us on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at The Strange Road, Facebook. We have a Facebook group. We have a Discord channel. Make sure Justin's got all those links for you in the show notes. We have my co-host Bub Stoner and Disbro's our audio guy. And you guys can hit us up on any of those platforms. We'd love to hear from you. Absolutely. And we've got some great interviews coming up. We've got a couple Strange Happenings episodes that we're working on right now, which is where me and Bub just cover what's weird in the world news, where it's just me and him. We do a live stream bi-weekly. And then we do interview episodes like this, just similar format where we've got some people that are researching archaeoacoustics and scalar technology that are coming on. We're doing some follow-up episodes. We're trying to get the cryptid hunters back on. We're trying to get the Hollow Sky boys and some other Justin. We're trying to get you back on. So we've got a short list of where we're kind of working through and batch recording episodes. And so we've got some great stuff coming down the line. Not only that, but we'll be working on some kind of short documentaries. One being the Serpent Mound Crop Circle, which formed in 2003 across the road, which Tom probably told you about. But
I got postcard pictures of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that photos from Jeffrey Wilson, who's a guy we've had on our show and is ICCRA.org is his crop circle research. And if you guys are into that stuff, and also serpentmound.org, that's Friends of Serpent Mound. And so Tom, Jeff, there's a gentleman named Roger Sugden and Pete Hardinger, who's the head of Roundtown UFO. Pete's in his 80s now. And so I'm really working on trying to get interviews locked in with all of these folks that were on the ground when the Serpent Mound Crop Circle was formed and telling that story, because it's never been told. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be down the road, but those are some of the things we're working on and super pumped about.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, like I said, I've just seen little documentaries on Serpent Mound and heard podcasts and stuff. So actually to go there and visit and talk to Tom and hear about all this stuff, I never knew about the 7.5 foot giant that was cut off at the knees found in the mound. I never knew about the crop circle or the underwater panther and just all this stuff. So it was awesome.
Yep. And it's a nexus of all. Ohio's a strange place, period. It is one of these strange. We have cryptids, we have UFO stories, we have serial killers and famous people that have come from here. So many actors and actresses, but we have at one point 10,000 ancient mounds. The Mothman story is very close by. We have the Loveland Frogman. So I like to say all strange roads lead to Ohio. And the Serpent Mound crater area where Tom and Terry and Jeff and all these folks live is the nexus of all the strange stuff in Ohio. So when you're saying, like, you're barely scratching the surface just for that one area, Justin, you got your mind blown. Like, you had the full experience. I love it.
Yeah. Well, guys, be sure to check out these guys and what they're doing. Like I told you before the show, the production wise is amazing. The conversations are amazing. And you just seen from this conversation, they're always enlightening conversations. And we all need to ask the hard questions, have the hard conversations, and stretch ourselves. And like I always say, don't be afraid to play the fool, because you must be the fool to be the wise old man.
I love that.
So until next time, guys, torch is high.